Well, folks, this is a pleasure to have Anna with us this afternoon to talk about Nelson Hospice. And we've had several of these talks recently, one on the MAF that Ken organised for us, and then on Sunday we had David Moynihan talking about his past work, and this afternoon we've got Anna. And Anna, this group, this church has had quite a bit to do with hospice over the past, as I was saying to you. We used to be what were called bed men, although there was women in our group as well, and we used to take beds out to people that had come home to basically to die in their own surroundings, and so we'd go out and put beds and things up for them, and that was a real pleasure. And we know just how important the work that you do is, and every one of us says we don't want to be there, but we know you're there when we need you. Yes. So we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to tell us.
Thank you very much. All right. I have to say this is a first, doing a speech in a church like this. I think the last time I was here on an altar was probably at my brother's wedding when I did a reading, so this will be a bit different. Okay, so I'm Anna. I'm from Nelson Tasman Hospice, and I've been there for about 4 years now, almost 4 years. I recently met Beth at the library when I did a little talk, and she's asked me to come today, so thank you so much for having me. I am the marketing and engagement manager, so I'm part of the team that tell the world about hospice and try and raise some money to keep us going. The slideshow that I've done today, it's a little bit different to usual because Beth has asked me for some additional information, so bear with me if I have to read off the screen at times. It's not my usual spiel, but I'll just go. So, what is palliative care? Palliative care is the provision of caring and dignified support and services for people of all ages facing a life-limiting condition. If you've been diagnosed with a life-limiting condition, palliative care aims to allow you to live the way that you want during and after treatment.
I can't quite hear.
Okay. Is that better if I go a bit closer? Sure. Allow you to live the way that you want during and after treatment, and equip your family and caregivers to support you while taking care of themselves. Palliative care is provided wherever the person is, so whether that is in their homes, in our hospice facilities, in hospital, or in aged residential care facilities. Hospices such as Nelson Tasman Hospice are the main providers of specialist palliative care services. And we use a team approach to support patients and their whole family. This includes addressing practical issues, cultural and psychosocial needs, as well as providing bereavement counselling. It offers a support system to help patients live as actively as possible until death, and it's really about living every moment right up until the end as well as possible. All right, so this is Dame Cicely Saunders. She's the founder of the modern hospice movement, which hasn't actually been around that long. She founded the first modern hospice in 1967 called St. Christopher's in London, and was responsible for establishing the discipline and the culture of palliative care. The hospice was founded on the principles of combining teaching and clinical research, expert pain and symptom relief with holistic care to meet the physical, social, psychological and spiritual needs of its patients and of the family and friends. She introduced effective pain management and insisted that dying people needed dignity, compassion and respect, as well as rigorous scientific methodology in the testing of treatments. And Nelson Tasman Hospice became part of Nelson's history in 1987. So next year is actually our 40th anniversary. And this was only 1 year after Hospice New Zealand was established. In this time, hospice has been based at 4 different buildings and has always relied on the support of volunteers and donors. In 1987, the Nelson Tasman Hospice's at-home service officially began. Hospice started with the help of 2 staff, a roster of casual nurses, and 8 volunteers based out of Sally McCormick House in 96 Waimea Road in Nelson. The building was named in honour of Nelson resident Sally McCormick, this very glamorous lady here, whose bequest supported the establishment of the service. Education sessions also took place in the lounge with an open-plan kitchen sharing palliative care practices from around the world. So it's very humble beginnings. In 1999, as demand for palliative care grew with the growing population of the Nelson Tasman region, hospice moved to 1 Erin Street, a momentous occasion in Nelson's history as the move allowed an inpatient unit to be opened for the first time. The inpatient unit at hospice was a short stay facility for patients requiring hands-on palliative care at the nearby Manuka Street Hospital. In 2004, Nelson Tasman Hospice moved to 2 Erin Street, and in 2006 moved again to a house on Manuka Street, which most of you will probably know as hospice. In 2008, the inpatient unit at Manuka Street Hospital also grew its services from 4 beds to 11, with 1 room retained as an office. The inpatient unit remained housed at the independently owned and operated Manuka Street Hospital until the hospital's service grew and required the space occupied by hospice, which led to a new home for hospice. So in 2015, Nelson Tasman Hospice began the search for land and early planning for a new building. And I'm sure a new home for hospice, it was huge in the community for years, a big fundraising drive. The search ended up with a site for the new facility at 331 Suffolk Road in Stoke. This land provided a perfect central space with beautiful surroundings for hospice to continue growing their story in Nelson. The campaign to build a local landmark was launched in 2015 and successfully raised $14 million for the new hospice, thanks to the generous support of the community. The build was led by Gibbons Construction and supported with a wide range of Nelson Tasman-based subcontractors. Many of the trades involved made significant contributions of their own to the project, enabling its completion on time and on budget, so not like some of the other builds around. Now this gentleman is Daniel O'Brien, and I'll tell you about him shortly. In 2019, Nelson Tasman Hospice accomplished its most ambitious project in its 30-year history. We built the new $11.5 million hospice in Suffolk Road in Stoke, thanks to the generous support of the community. The heart of hospice in our region includes a 10-bed specialist palliative care inpatient unit. The building also includes consulting rooms, spaces for patients and families to gather and relax, allied health support services including pastoral care and grief counselling for families and whānau. In addition, the hospice building includes a base for hospice's significant community outreach service, which includes nurses and allied health staff, an area for patients to attend a day clinic, a training centre for our palliative care education team to share their knowledge and experience with other health professionals and carers, office and meeting space for our staff, including doctors, nurses, healthcare assistants, physiotherapists, social workers, counsellors, chaplain, bereavement support coordinator, and administration staff. A base for hospice's hundreds of volunteers who provide a wide range of support to hospice's many services. And I found out today that Fiona is part of your team, Fiona Summerfield, and so you can ask her all about the volunteer services. And there's also an office for fundraising, which is where I sit, and finance to support the ongoing provision of hospice services free of charge to the Nelson Tasman community. For the first time since 1999, we are all under one roof. And this is Daniel O'Brien, and our inpatient unit is named after this man. He left a gift in his will of $4.2 million, which enabled the start of our build It was an incredible gift that no one knew was coming, but it really meant a lot. And every time I go into the unit, I just think, I see his name and I just think what a legacy to leave our whole community. It's pretty amazing. So, Nelson Tasman Hospice has evolved since 1987 and is now a specialist palliative care provider, which means that we provide services for people of all ages with life-limiting illnesses, supporting them, their whānau and carers through illness, death and bereavement. We work as a team. We know that people with life-limiting illnesses need a holistic approach to care, not only focusing on physical symptoms, but also supporting patients and their whānau with the social, emotional and spiritual impact of their illness. The level of care we provide is based on the needs of the patient and their whānau. Our care is available throughout the Nelson Tasman region, including Motueka, and is provided in the home, in aged care facilities, in hospitals and in our purpose-built specialist palliative care unit. There's a little video clip now, which is hopefully not too loud. It's our clinical services director. She's just retired, actually resigned, and we've got a new director coming. But this video, I think, beautifully tells you what hospice is all about, what hospice care is.
I unfortunately had 4 very close friends be diagnosed with life-limiting conditions at the same time. It was quite amazing to me the care that hospice was able to provide. And at the time I was a clinical psychologist and started to think maybe I've got some skills and attributes that the hospice could benefit from. The job came up here for the clinical services manager and I applied and yeah, have been here ever since. And love it, really love it. At the most stressful point in any family or an individual's life is to be diagnosed with a life-limiting illness, and that is clinical psychologists specialise in dealing with high levels of distress and also specialise in supporting people to find their resiliency, because people are incredibly resilient. And just like you prepare for a beautiful birth the way you want it to go, it doesn't always go that way, but you prepare. That's how we support families and walk alongside families and individuals to prepare for their death. We're in the community in people's homes, and we're in the hospital, and we're here in our purpose-built facility. So we're not just a building, it's wherever we need to be, we are. A lot of people think it's only in the weeks or days prior to someone dying that we become involved with them and their whānau. And that's not the case at all. In fact, if we are involved earlier in someone's illness, we can support the people better to actually just be able to achieve what they want to achieve still with their remaining life. So we're actually about life, not just death. When someone first comes into the service, we complete an assessment with them, and out of that we highlight with the person and their family what their needs are at the time, and from that we can ensure that we put the right person or the right people into that care team. I really value that that's what we do. It feels like every day I come to work and I do something that's meaningful.
So I think that gives a nice overview. The second part of my presentation is more about some facts and figures about hospice, and I'll start with some myths that are around and about. So everyone loves hospice, but not everyone really knows what it is that we do. So people often think that our care is focused solely on medical care, that we're just a building, so that's what we hear a lot, we're a building where people come to die. That the service that we offer is quite limited, that we only care for patients in their final days, that we only look after patients with cancer, and that we're fully funded and part of a nationally funded organisation, and all of those things are not true. We're in fact a local charity and one of 33 independent hospices in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We offer a holistic wraparound care, so all of our services are for patients and for the whole family and whānau. We focus on the quality of life and living well with a life-limiting illness, And 80% of the work that we do is actually out in the community, not in our building in Stoke. Our clinical team of 55 specialists is made up of our age residential care team. So we go into every age residential care facility in the region. We have an in-reach support team in the hospital, in Nelson Hospital. We're in the community, so people's homes, and we have a team of specialists in our unit at Suffolk Road as well. And in Motueka, the care is provided by the district nursing team. So once you come onto our service, you will be seen by the district nurse, who then has her hospice or his hospice hat on. And it just means that you are looked after extremely well, but you also will be able to access all of the services that hospice has. And so that's a really amazing thing. Our patients. So this is actually a photo of one of the families that was with us last year, and they've allowed us to use the photo for our slideshows and things. That's taken in our beautiful garden. So as I mentioned, we look after patients of all ages and not just cancer patients. So 48% of our patients actually have a non-cancer diagnosis. For example, cardiac disease, renal disease, neurological disease like motor neuron, so a whole range of different illnesses, which means that our specialists have to be extremely skilled in being able to look after all types of illnesses. And I think a lot of what is on there I'll talk about in the next few slides, so we can skip to the next one. So something Beth was interested in was how to access care with hospice. So deciding when to access hospice care involves recognising the signs of terminal illness and the need for specialised palliative care. Some key indicators to consider. So if the illness is no longer curable and has entered a terminal phase, then it's time to seek hospice care. If the patient has complex palliative care needs that cannot be fully met by generalist providers, such as symptom management, psychosocial issues, or spiritual and cultural issues, hospice care may be necessary. So palliative care is provided in the community by the DHB, and hospice comes in when it's really complex specialist cases. So often a lot of our patients might still have young children at home, or still in the workforce, or they might have a multitude of issues that makes their illness quite complex. So we take on the difficult cases, and so that's a lot of complex care needs. If the patient is imminently dying and is requested to die in the hospice, then that hospice care might be appropriate. And quality of life focus. So hospice care is focused on improving the quality of life for patients with life-limiting conditions, not just providing comfort. It's important to consult with healthcare providers to determine the best course of action and to explore all options available. Hospice care is available wherever the person is, whether at home, in hospital, or residential care. So your GP or your healthcare provider will generally be the person that would refer you onto the service, but you can actually self-refer as well, or your family can refer you. Right. Oh, this is terrible. You can't hardly read it. Sorry. So hospice care may be appropriate when a person has an advanced progressive illness where the focus is quality of life and comfort, is likely to be in the last year of their life, although this may be longer for some conditions and for some of our younger patients. Has complex physical, emotional, spiritual, cultural, or social needs that cannot be met by the general healthcare services, lives within the Nelson Tasman region and agrees to the hospice involvement. So we won't get involved unless the patient agrees for us to be involved, and is enrolled with a local GP or primary healthcare provider. Common reasons for referral: difficult symptom management, emotional, spiritual, or family distress, complex care coordination or advocacy needs, advanced care planning and end-of-life decision-making, and support to remain at home and avoid unnecessary hospital admissions. So our team are really good at keeping the hospital free of patients. Without us, they would be under a lot more stress than they already are. And it's important to know that hospice support can be provided alongside other services, and that some people might actually be discharged from the hospice service if their condition stabilises and then re-referred at a later date if things change. And specialist palliative care advice is available to other health professionals at any time. So they can ring us 24/7 to ask help, ask questions, so that service is available to all of the region as well. Every referral is considered individually, including for people who are imminently dying or have complex needs despite a longer prognosis. We have a beautiful allied health team, just a counselling student and a physiotherapist. And these professionals work closely alongside the doctors, nurses and volunteers as well to support you and your whānau. They look after emotional well-being, psychological support, social and practical needs, spiritual care, physical comfort and function, and support for the whānau before and after loss. When might they help? So managing physical symptoms and maintaining independence. So that's a big part of what our physiotherapist aims to do. Supporting emotional well-being and coping with the illness, helping navigate practical concerns such as housing, finances, or access to services. We create a space to talk about fears and hopes, exploring meaning, spirituality, or cultural needs, guidance, reassurance, and support as a caregiver, and supporting whānau before and after bereavement. By working together, we can provide coordinated support tailored to what matters most to you. And every morning, our team sits down with doctors, nurses, with our allied health, and we actually, they discuss a patient's needs. So patients that might have issues at the moment, they'll talk about that, new patients to the service, and they really do have an individual plan for each and every patient that is looked after. And with 210 patients on our service at any one time, on average, it's pretty huge what they do. So, some facts and figures, because I don't know about you, but I find stuff like that quite interesting. But so, last year, 773 patients in total were cared for, and the average days on our service is 121 days, so it's actually quite a long period. Our 55 is the number of clinical colleagues that we have, so not only doctors and nurses, healthcare assistants, and then those allied health professionals that I mentioned. Our age range of patients last year was 18 all the way up to 104, so it's a huge age range. And 1 in 3 people that die in our community are actually looked after by Nelson Tasman Hospice, so that's quite a big number. And I've put a map up there to show sort of the reach, the coverage that we have. So we look after patients from Golden Bay all the way down to Murchison and over to Rye Valley. So it's a really big catchment area there, and often people are quite surprised by that. So then we have an education team. It's a very active team, offering around 60 workshops, different workshops every year. Last year to 935 participants. We offer these to family, but also Te Whatu Ora staff, registered and district nurses, aged residential care workers, students from NMIT, and the education suite at Nelson Tasman Hospice is where most of those workshops take place and is named after Dame Cicely Saunders, who I mentioned at the start, who was the founder of the hospice movement. We do also offer online courses to our rural district nurses and things as well. So it's quite a big important role. Obviously we can't care for every single person that is dying in the community, but we provide support to all of the other providers to enable the best possible palliative care in our region. So that's a really important role there. Then we've got equipment, so the equipment guys. So we have over 700 pieces of home healthcare equipment available for those on our service. And these items make it possible for people to live comfortably and safely in their homes with their families while receiving palliative care. Volunteers play a huge role in the delivery, maintenance and cleaning of this equipment, making it possible to continue providing a very important service to the community. We deliver approximately 86 pieces of equipment to our community every month. So it's quite an important part of what we do. I've popped up a photo there of some of our team. So in total, we have 120 colleagues at hospice, so paid staff, 55 of which are clinical, 35 are support colleagues, so administration, maintenance, fundraising like myself, and administration. Retail colleagues, we have about 30 retail colleagues, so managers and assistant managers in our 5 hospice shops around the region. And then an astounding 443 volunteers. So really a huge team that make everything happen. And we really couldn't do without our volunteers, to be honest. Most of those are in our shops, so about half. And then the rest of them, there's 40 different roles at hospice, give or take, whether it be gardening, the equipment delivery, our cafe on site is run by volunteers. And there are also volunteers that do life story writing for our patients or drive patients to appointments or ensure that people can have a break while one of our volunteers will sit with a patient or look after things like that. Now, obviously, our services are free, but they come at a huge cost. So we're only 52% government funded, which means we have to raise over $4 million every year just for the Nelson Tasman Hospice, which is about $12,300 a day that our shortfall is. So it's a pretty massive shortfall. And I love the little zero at the bottom because that's the cost to our patients and their whānau, and we really want to keep it that way. So that's why we're out trying to raise money all the time. How do we attempt to bridge that funding gap? So we've got our 5 op shops, and last year the op shops actually raised over $2 million, so almost half of that shortfall, which is absolutely incredible. We have a whole bunch of events and fundraisers happening where people leave us gifts in their will. We apply for grants. We have commercial sponsorships, so some of our vehicles, for example, are sponsored, or some big corporations might make a monetary donation every year. We have in-memory donations, so at a funeral, people might ask for donations in memory of their loved one. We have a variety of campaigns that I can tell you about later. We also have payroll giving, so there are actually businesses in the region who offer their staff the opportunity to pay a small portion of their pay to hospice every month as a donation, and it's surprising the amount of people out there that actually do this. It might just be a little bit to them, but for us it just makes a difference, and it's money that we know is coming in, which, So our shops sell about 20,000 items every month, and as I said, they raised about half of our shortfall last year. We have shops in Tākeka, Motueka, Richmond, op shop on Saxton, and in Nelson we have one too. So just by donating or shopping at one of our shops, you really do help us a lot. How can you get involved with hospice? Go along to events that you might see in the community that interest you. Donating and purchasing good quality goods makes a real difference. Campaigns, we've got a variety of ways that you can donate to us. Volunteering, as I said, we've got over 40 roles, so I'm sure we could find something for you. And advocacy, so a real big part of just coming along to one of these talks is the advocacy that you provide for us. So if you just remember one of the facts today or something new that you learnt and then tell other people about it, that's amazing for us. So as I said at the start, lots of people just don't really know what it is that we do. So it's really important for us that we try and spread the word out there. And that is it. I've come to the end. Thank you. Has anyone got any questions? I'm happy to take questions.
Our group very often pay for a day of care.
Yes.
And I know they're quite expensive, so could you tell me what's involved in that day?
Yeah, so a day of care is a day that, so you choose a date that is special to you in memory of your loved one usually, but sometimes businesses do it as well. They cost either $1,200 or $1,700. And we put a photo of your loved one on our social media to let everybody know that you've sponsored that day. There's also a wee poster that will go up in our reception, in our unit, in our staff area. And the two levels, it costs, it's to cover the costs of like one nurse for that day, the care of somebody. And the 1,700 one includes then like a counselling session, for example, on top of that as well. So it's just a really nice way for people to donate money, feel like they get something in return for their loved one, and it just helps for our operational costs, because our operational costs for our clinical team, for our team in general, are really our highest cost, as the people that make it all happen. So yeah, pretty cool.
Does hospice talk to patients about assisted dying?
So yeah, we're not allowed to talk to patients about assisted dying unless they talk to us about it first. And then our team get the assisted dying team involved, so the local team. They're allowed on site as much as they want to arrange things, and we work really closely with the assisted dying team, but we don't allow that actual physical act to take part in our building or on our grounds, but we will obviously help facilitate the movement of our people and support them in their choice. Yeah.
You support children in their last year of life, or even before, because it's really
Specialised.
traumatic kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think it's a pretty lonely thing, because people sometimes cross the street when you've got a child dying in your place.
Yeah.
So I wondered if you've made it known to the hospital there that you...
Yes, so my understanding is, because I talked to our team after the announcement of the palliative care funding for paediatric. So recently the government said they were going to do 15.5 million to establish some paediatric palliative care around the country, and I talked to our team because I always want to understand what that is, and they said to me that in our Nelson Tasman there's actually a team at the DHB that specialise in the children's palliative care, and that they support them. We do have some younger people, so younger than 18, that are, not necessarily terminal, but they have very complex needs, and we have them with us for respite care, for example, or our volunteers, young volunteers will spend time with them and things like that. So we work really closely with the other teams on that to support. Yeah. But with this new funding, potentially they're saying they will establish a unit in the South Island that will really focus on those cases. So hopefully, yeah. Yes. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Oh. All right. Thank you.